Hello and welcome to our 7th episode of the 11-part series of Industrial Hemp in New Zealand, put on by the New Zealand Hemp Industries Association. These webinars will run throughout July and the recorded version will be available after the event. Today we'll be talking about the food, how to use it, high-value nutrition, R&D ecosystem and direction of travel regarding plant-based foods and protein, new product development, healthy food trends. So quite a lot to get through, and we have some talented presenters joining us today. We have Baxter, the Business Development Manager from the Foodbowl, which is part of the Food Innovation Network. Nicki Mackinnon, who is a holistic nutritionist, a naturopath and a medical herbalist. And Anant from Riddet Institute at Massey University. Now, all these people are just really looking forward to their presentations, and there's quite a lot to cover, so we may run a little over, which will come into our Q&A time, but we'll see if we can manage that and try and keep on point, and then look forward to picking it up in the Q&A. So today we're going to start with Nicki, who's going to show us some things about how to use the food, which is a great first step, because of course that's where it all starts. It's great for us to promote the food, but if people don't know how to use it, then it just sits in the cupboard. So over to you, Nicki. Looking forward to this one.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm going to go pretty fast through the main important points when we're talking about hemp. The reason I think it's so important in terms of nutrition is that it is the perfect food, in my opinion, for us as a human species. So that's the problem that I've had with recommending hemp to my clients particularly, is that it does end up sitting in the cupboard if they are going to be only sprinkling it on their muesli and adding it to their smoothies. After 3 weeks, compliance sort of falls out the door. So we had to create a whole lot of recipes that would help with that compliance issue. So first of all, I think it's good to cover the nutritional points of why it's so important and what kind of hemp ingredients we've got to work with at the moment. So I think first of all, I'll start with hemp oil. I think, as you can see, it's a very thick, dark oil, so it's full of nutrients. But I think the superstar components of these oils, that it is the perfect balance of omega-6s and omega-3 fatty acids at a ratio of around 3 to 1. So historically, that's the ratio that our ancestors were using when they were having a really great diet, when food wasn't processed or we weren't having the imbalances that we have today. So I think the average today, according to the researchers, we're having about a ratio of 38 to 1 omega-6s to 3s. So I think that's really important. So if we're using hemp, the fats as a main source of our essential fatty acids, essential meaning that our body needs it to function properly, then hemp is a really good base for that. I think the next thing to think about, it also has gamma-linolenic acid, which is a very rare essential fatty acid that we don't have many plants that will give us that fatty acid. The next thing to talk about is the leaf. The hemp plant has a very nutritious leaf that unfortunately is only abstract at the moment because we're not legally allowed to use it in New Zealand as food. So the reason why it's so good is that it does top up, as hemp is a whole food, tops up the vitamin C and a whole lot of other polyphenols that we may not get from just the seed. So it does, as a famine food, it creates this whole food. If we were really stuck and we needed to eat something, the leaf as well as the seed would be important. If I was to use it, I'd be using it as pesto, in salads or stir frying it. And another sort of important point as a medicine is that when we're having it in its raw state, we're having it as, in its, for example, the CBD, one of the phytocannabinoids, in its acid form, which gives us a whole array of other benefits that we might not get when we're heating it. So I think that's the leaf covered. The whole seeds is the other thing that we unfortunately can't get access to in New Zealand as well, which gives us the fat, the protein, as well as the fibre. And also it gives us the extra benefit of being able to sprout, which increases the nutritional benefits of sprouting. In some countries, they sterilise the seeds, so they can be eaten whole. They will still sprout because they're such a hearty seed, even with being sterilised, but they won't germinate. So I think that's an unfortunate thing, that we can't have access to the seed, the whole seed at the moment. But the great thing is we can mimic the whole seed by eating the hearts, and And if you can get hold of the husks, which are available in New Zealand, then that will sort of mimic that idea of having the whole seed. Next, so I'll show you, so we obviously don't have the leaf or the whole seed at the moment. The next thing is the flower. So if you can see, the flower is a very dense looking powder. That is, the oil's been taken away from that. It's the byproduct from pressing the oil. So this is full of the fiber. So I do include this in when I'm recommending it to clients, because it does bulk up the fiber concept that we would get if we were having the whole seed. So it's around 20% soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is very important for lowering blood sugar levels by creating a slower environment of it traveling through the digestive system. Very good for blood pressure as well. It contains about 20% of the soluble fiber and about 80% of the non-soluble fiber, which bulks up the bowels, which is very good prebiotic for the microbes in the gut. And I think that, again, our ancestors did have around 100 grams of fiber a day, whereas we're having around about 5% of that at the moment on average, if we're looking at in a world scale. I think that's important to be focusing a little bit more on fiber. The last thing when we're talking about hemp is, and these are gold really from a culinary point of view, because we can do so much with them. That's the hemp hearts, or the dehulled seeds. These are brilliant for being able to work with as a food, which I will show you guys some food that I've made soon, because it's so easy to work with this when it has been hulled, although I do prefer the whole seeds if we do have access to them. So when we're talking about protein and hemp, we're talking about a perfect complete protein with all the essential amino acids, which there aren't a lot of plant-based proteins that have all those amino acids in a great balance. And as we can see, trending at the moment is plant-based diets, vegan diets, and it's important to understand that a lot of the meat replacements that are out there are meat replacements, not necessarily protein replacements, whereas this really is perfect as a replacement for those meat products for people that are on plant-based diets. So I think there's a couple of points when we're talking about the amino acids. Is it's very rich, particularly hemp is rich in arginine. Which arginine is a precursor to nitric oxide. Now we know that a lot of problems that we have with health at the moment is to do with cardiovascular health in these first world countries. So when we're increasing nitric oxide, we're having a positive effect on cardiovascular health. Also arginine, there's research that shows that it lowers CRP, which is an inflammatory marker, which is also associated with cardiovascular problems. It's also very rich in a very unique, important protein called edestin, which contains 60%, which is a very digestible protein. That's just why it works well for our cancer patients, from very, very, very young people, first protein foods to our last, very easy to digest. It's known as a globular protein, giving the building blocks for making globulin, serum globulins, such as the gamma globulin antibodies, which is very, very positive for the immune system. And especially this is an area that people are worried about at the moment. So hemp, this particular protein is brilliant for that. Because I don't have much time, I'm going to quickly run through some food that I make, because we want to get this hemp in people. So we've got to give them food that they like. So I'm just going to tilt this down a little bit so I've got food on the table here. Firstly, I've got, I don't know how well you can see this, but it is like a cottage cheese type consistency. So how we've done that is just by blending it together and gently heating it to give it, just to separate the liquids with a little bit of lemon, and that separates the liquids from that. Next, I've got a Parmesan cheese, which we just sprinkle. We don't have to eat that. All that is some nutritional yeast. How well I can show you that. Nutritional yeast and a little bit of salt and some garlic. Just pulsed in the blender, and you've got a beautiful Parmesan cheese that we sprinkle on pasta and things like that. Next, this is my favorite. This is what I eat every day. It's a little bit like a tabbouleh type salad. I put 100 grams of hemp in that, so that I have that for breakfast most days. and it gets that a good dose of the protein and the fats, and it really does keep me full for a long time because it's such a high quality protein and minerals and nutrients that I'm getting there. The next thing is, because we want to get that flour in you with all that fiber, I use crackers to do that. I don't know how well you can see. I've got some, I can sort of show you how well it crunches. Anyway, that's the cracker. So that goes well with the cottage cheese. Lastly, we've got some milk. Not lastly, we've got a couple. Actually, the favourite one is coming last. Milk, easy to do, just blending the hemp seeds that have been soaked, or you can separate the pulp if you want. I like to keep the pulp in there because it's got a little bit more of the protein and a little bit of the fibre. The very, very last thing is the favourite, and that is chocolate. So we've made a chocolate here out of the hemp. So we've stone ground that together with around about 30% hemp seed. So it gives you a really good dose. If someone's having 100 grams of this chocolate, they're going to get around about 30 grams of hemp, which is really brilliant. It's a good contributor to this hemp that you're getting in your diet. This one here, I've just sort of encased it with hemp seeds on the top as well, just to give an extra boost of hemp. So I think that's 10 minutes up, I believe. Yep.
Wow. Nicki, fantastic. You've raised to the occasion because, of course, 10 minutes, as you pointed out, was not long, and we even started a bit delayed. But to get all that information in, and I'm sure the people watching are going, oh my God, you know, globular Edstein and all this sort of thing. Don't worry, folks, it will all make sense as you start really taking your journey into the hemp foods. And so important, all the topics you've mentioned there, and really pleased to see chocolate getting a mention at the end. So we'll just hand it. So we'll come back with some Q&A, but I can see Al's ready to go for his screen share of his presentation. So we'll hand straight to Al and come back to you, Nicki, and our Q&A. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Nicki. I'm feeling quite hungry now. No, I will. Richard asked me to talk about a number of topics that I've put these together into this presentation today. Again, I've got 10 minutes, so I'll move through it fairly fast. I'll be talking a bit at the start about the R&D ecosystem that's here in New Zealand that helps people with food product development. I'll talk about some food trends and a little bit about healthy food trends as well, and then about plant-based foods as well. I've just been asked, Richard, to start my video. Is that right? Okay, so I'll talk about the new product development process and some opportunities at the end as well. So about half of New Zealand exports are food and beverage. And our food and beverage industry is in pretty good shape. We've got a lot of growth into Asia. We've got a strong core of products and lots of emerging products as well. There's growth upside, and we're well trusted across the world as well. For our food safety standards, and the fact that we're quite remote means that we have very few diseases here, and that gives us good market access to many different countries. And there's a food and beverage ecosystem which is incredible, really, that helps people and it helps the industry as a whole. So we've got food and beverage focused science organizations, universities with major food and beverage research focus, and then government co-investments as well. I'm just going to minimize my screen here so I can see properly. Okay, so and there are also a couple of food hubs, one in Palmerston North. Food HQ sort of put a string around that, and it involves universities, companies and Crown Research Institutes, and then another food hub down in Lincoln in the South Island. And there are also very supportive industry bodies across different sectors as well. And of course, there's funding available through Callaghan Innovation and various newer funds as well as Sustainable Food and Fibres Futures, through MPI, which is it's actually an undersubscribed fund as well, and a High Value Nutrition Challenge as well. So those are all government funded initiatives, so to help people with their product development, and a lot of those are very relevant to the hemp industry as well. So no doubt many of you have been looking into those. Which brings me to where I work, the Foodbowl. Professor Ray Winger realized about 10 years ago that there was nowhere for ingenious Kiwis to go and commercialize their food products. So this is why the Food Innovation Network and the Foodbowl was brought into being, and we have these facilities across the country now, and people can go, and they're open access facilities where people can develop their food products. At the Foodbowl, we've got the 4 factory units joined together, A, B, C, and D, and these are separate factory units where we can arrange equipment for the clients to use. We configure the equipment, and then we have engineers there to help them process their foods and upscale and commercialize their food products. So we've done quite a bit of work in various areas, but we have to do with hemp, but we have a lot of equipment that's very relevant to hemp as well. So when it comes to milks, we've got the UHT equipment in Auckland, Palmerston North, and in Christchurch, which allows you to make a shelf-stable hemp milk. And we've got separation equipment as well, which you can separate the solids from the liquid once you've extracted all the things you want to extract. For baked hemp products, like some of the things Nicki was talking about, we can make those at scale as well. We've got various machines for putting blobs of dough onto belts, putting even doing filled doughs, and ovens, of course, and depositors. When it comes to snacks, we've got extruders, 3 of these across the network, so you can make expanded snacks. Some examples on the right of what's been done overseas. And then butter spreads and dips as well. We've got machinery to make those. So we're very well equipped to help the hemp industry. And of course, Callaghan, some of you have probably heard, have got their supercritical CO2 extraction technology, which is used for CBD oil. And we've got one of those units being used pretty much full time now at the Foodbowl. So it's a very, very versatile food with lots of possibilities. You just need to look online and see what's being done overseas. And of course, the Foodbowl has the hemp license now, and we're working on getting the research license for the medicinal cannabis, which would probably be used in conjunction with the supercritical CO2 extractor. So moving on to food trends, and I better move quite quickly, but these are the global mega trends that have been talked about for quite a few years now. Health and wellness, indulgence, and convenience are the 3 that have been around much longer. And then the one at the bottom is all about telling a story of your food and doing something with your food that is authentic and responsible. So it's definitely a trend that's come in over the last few years. When it comes to health and wellness, just 12 months ago, these are the 3 that were highlighted as being the important ones that were on trend. But of course, since COVID, immune health has very much been in the news and is what people are looking for to protect their immune system. Euromonitor talked about some of the trends that have happened since COVID, and I think obviously there were short-term trends when everybody panic bought at the supermarket, and then people were doing a lot more home cooking, and food service obviously died for a while in this country. And then there's some habits that are probably going to remain. We've all got into webinars, and a lot of us have got into shopping online a lot more for food. I know that we did as a family. So that's certainly a trend that's going to continue. Food safety and localism rather than globalism is another thing. And a greater purchase of health and wellness foods. Food packaging has been in the spotlight for a few years with people trying to come up with more sustainable options and to use less packaging, but COVID ironically has had the effect of people wanting to protect their food a lot more so that other people are not sneezing and touching it. So I think in the short term there's a bit of a blip there with that, but certainly sustainable packaging is going to be a long-term trend. And then this whole thing about the information revolution and telling the story and the provenance of your food is so important now. As information technology improves, you're not just looking at the back of a cereal packet when you're having breakfast. You can find out all you want to know about a food. So having a really good story around your food is very important and can lead to a brand and a product becoming very successful if you get that right. When it comes to plant-based foods, we've seen a lot of work done in the last few years across our network. We've worked on plant-based milks, plant-based yogurts, plant-based spreads, plant-based cheese, all of those things in the last month, actually. So there's a huge amount of activity here. And plant-based foods are certainly growing in the States. They're growing faster, they're a very fast-growing category, and growing faster than foods as a total. So hemp are very much in tune with trends, good for the environment, plant-based, versatile and convenient to consume, and have the health-giving properties, as Nicki pointed out. There's a couple of things that are causing a few problems when it comes to upscaling plant-based foods in this country. Look on the left, we're very good at growing plants, as we all know. And on the right, we're pretty good at putting consumer foods together as well in this country. What we don't have is huge facilities like they have in Canada and Europe and in the States that extract protein from plants. We've got all of our extraction facilities are for animal and dairy. So it's a bit of a gap in the system at the moment. And if you're going to be developing a plant-based protein in this country, it's a significant gap which is going to hinder your progress. So that's something that's being worked on in government at the moment, and how that gap can be filled to enable us to do more work in this area. Then when it comes to plant-based milks, there's also a gap when it comes to UHT contract facilities. We have the pilot facilities across our network, and there's one or two that offer contract, but they're pretty much full. So if you're looking to do a plant-based milk, it's actually quite difficult to upscale at the moment. So again, that's something that we're looking into to try and make it easier for these types of things to be commercialized. Right, so just touching on that, with the ecosystem, it's obviously quite difficult to know where to go to get help. So this is one of the reasons that this capability roadmap that Tanya and Andrew have talked about in previous webinars in this series. And I'm not going to go into this in any detail. This is going to get released by Callahan in the next few days, I believe. But there is a section on hemp seed where what it will do is it will tell you where to go at each stage of your product development so that you know what facilities are available and what government help and other help is available to help you sort of through the maze. So it acts as a very effective roadmap for that product development process. And the Food Innovation Network, we've done our own little thing on a guide to product development as well, just a 5-step guide to how to develop a food product. And I think there's some key things in there I want to highlight. This is available. If anyone wants this, just get in touch with us. Tells you where to go for help as well. I think one of the key things is finding out what your customer wants first. So if you're developing a food product, you don't want to just make this product and then try and sell it. It's very important to know what customers are looking for in a food product before you develop it. Right, so in summary, there's a significant ecosystem in this country for food and beverage businesses. And I've talked about the roadmap that will help you navigate that. New Zealand food and beverage products are trusted and valued overseas. Hemp is obviously a versatile ingredient and it's aligned with very many current food trends. So there is an opportunity there. I just noted that some hemp foods are easier to upscale than others at the moment with the infrastructure that we have. And at the end, it's very important to do your market research and to tell the story of your food. I guess a lot of it boils down to this question, which I'm just going to leave you with at the end. What will make New Zealand hemp products special? Because, you know, we are going to be competing with people doing hemp from other countries, and they'll possibly be able to do it cheaper and at scale. So it's really about us all deciding and working on how to make New Zealand hemp special so that it really gets a premium and people want to buy it. Okay, Richard.
Well done, Al. If I could ask you to turn your screen sharing off and then you're away, I'll just come back on very quickly. Again, another great effort at getting so much information out in a very short time, and there's so many things that we can talk about, but we're going to go straight into Anant's presentation, and then we'll come back to some Q&As because there were so many things around that value chain. I thought that was very interesting, that gap that you highlighted. So we'll pick those up in our Q&A. So Anant, can I ask you to come in there on your camera? And
yes, I have.
Okay, you're away, and we'll just go back into turning off ours and leave it up to you, sir.
All right. I need to share my screen, Richard.
Okay, yeah, sorry, something must have changed there. We'll get back to you now, Anant. Sorry about that delay. How are you looking now?
Yes, that is much better.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Kia ora, everyone. My name is Anant and I work as a research officer at the Riddet Institute. We are based in Palmerston North. And thanks for the opportunity for us to present some of our work at this webinar series. A little bit about just one second, there's a technical glitch here. A little bit about our institute. Mm-hmm.
Are you there, Anant?
For some reason, I have been disconnected. Can you hear my voice?
I can hear your voice.
All right.
You're still co-hosting, so yeah, and we can see your Riddet Institute, the first page. Is that a technical difficulty at your end, do you think, Anant?
Sorry for that. Hopefully this should work now. Yep.
Okay, it seems to be rebooting. And now you're at the National Partnership page.
Yes.
Okay, over to you.
Apologies for the technical glitch. So we are a Center of Research Excellence in Food Science and are hosted at Mackinnon University in Palmerston North. The Riddet Institute is made up of 5 founding partners, which is Mackinnon University, University of Auckland, University of Otago, and the 2 Crown Research Institutes, which is the Plant and Food Research and the Egg Research. In addition, we also have strategic partnerships and alliances through our associate investigators across different organizations throughout New Zealand. Just to give you more idea about our work, we are very well connected throughout New Zealand through our key research projects, and we partner through different organizations operating in this space, especially the Food Innovation Network. We rely on their expertise for commercialization of our research, which we do. This slide here actually gives the length and breadth of the space or the questions which we ask through our research. We are interested in understanding how the food structures are structured in, or the foods are structured in the nature, understand how the nutrients within these structures are encapsulated, and secondly, what impact does processing have on these food structures? How are the nutrients getting affected? Finally, once we have an understanding of these structures, we also look at how these structures are broken down in our human gastrointestinal tract, and what impact does it have on our, in terms of our nutrition or in terms of our gut microbiota. And this is where our interest in hemp comes in. We are constantly scouting for new ingredients to structure foods, and we believe hemp is one of those nutritionally balanced ingredients which we can use not only to structure foods, but also to deliver superior nutrition. In the next few slides, I would give you a few examples of our research which we are doing. And I think Alasdair has done, made my job slightly easy. He has highlighted the gap that we are quite good at, kind of growing hemp and the processing part, but at least we are not, we have still a room to, work on during, say, protein extractions or fiber extractions, or making, extracting valuable biomaterials from hemp. And this is where actually most of our research has been in the last 2 years. If we look at the graph here shows an overview of hemp products available globally. What we note from the graph here is that nearly 50% of the product launches in the last 5 years have been in the segment of meal replacements. There have been other notable, product launches as well in other categories. For example, in dietary supplements, snacks, cereals are the other category of products. The top claims in these categories are, ranged from, say, low allergens, organic, environmentally friendly, all the way to more substantiated claims such as, high protein, weight and muscle gain, and high satiety. What we also note from these categories or this data is that there is a huge room for improvement or kind of development of products such as hemp milk beverage, hemp tofu, hemp ice cream, or even fermented hemp products. And I think we have a real advantage of growing hemp, as we saw in the previous presentation, that we have a clean environment here, and that is a good claim to have a product, New Zealand made product, from New Zealand made hemp. But there are certain obvious challenges. So as we all know, not all proteins are equal nutritionally. What that means is that the quality of the proteins may differ based on the source, based on the composition, and based on the processing the foods undergo. And this has an impact on the final nutritional quality and the bioavailability of the proteins. In 2011, our institute, the Riddet Institute, hosted the FAO Expert Consultation Group, which looked at the dietary protein quality evaluation in human nutrition. Now, as an outcome of this particular meeting, there was a new proposal or a new recommendation which was given to the industry or to the whole world, which proposed a new quality evaluation tool for assessing protein quality in foods. This is slightly more robust than the conventional PDCAS method which is being used. Now, this is slightly more technical, but if you look at the applications, so what are the applications of this particular method? The main application is that it provides a scientific basis for blending of proteins with hemp. Now, hemp, as Nicki pointed out, is one of the most complete foods. It has nearly all the essential amino acids, all 10 essential amino acids, which our body cannot synthesize. However, some of these amino acids are present in very low concentrations or low amounts, and this would be impacted by processing. So if you want to manufacture a more balanced food, we can use this particular protocol to blend different types of protein sources together, say a meal replacement or a dietary supplement formulated using a scientific technique, using this particular assessment tool. The second example which I want to highlight here is that for beverage products, in order to make any beverage product a high protein beverage, the proteins should dissolve completely in water. Now, I would like to highlight one of the challenges which we have with the hemp proteins. Now, on the graph here, what we have on the x-axis is some numbers which gives idea about the acidity scale. Now, the lower the number, the more acidic the product. And just for your reference, if you have a number of 4.6, a pH of 4.6, that will make the product as acidic as your yogurt. The fruit juices are typically slightly lower, about at a farther end, which is at around pH 2, between 2 and 4, and more the products such as milk are in that red zone, where our hemp proteins have very poor solubility. So if you look at the graph, the protein solubility is only about less than 40%. So our work in the last 1 year has been to look at the extraction of proteins from hemp seed meals. So once you have extracted the high value oil out of these hemp seeds, the hemp protein, the hemp seed meals are quite rich in these proteins. How do we extract these proteins out using different strategies? Also, once we have kind of extracted these proteins out, how do we stabilize these hemp proteins after they have been extracted? So we have used different protocols, such as whether there is an impact of a different protein which is present in the system, or can we process it differently so that the protein becomes more stable. Currently, we are understanding the functional properties of these extracts, which will allow these extracts to be used in a variety of different applications, for example, the whipping creams, all the way to plant-based meat analogs. The third research example of the research which we are undertaking at the Riddet Institute is looking at hemp cream as a source of high-value ingredients. Now, almost all of the oil present in the hemp seeds or the hemp hearts is present in tiny packets or droplets, which is on the right-hand side of the screen. And this is just a natural preservation system for the oil. And because the system is designed to contain the oils for a very, very long time, so that the seed is able to germinate and use this oil for its own energy purposes, we can use these for encapsulation of bioactives and stabilize these bioactives for a very long time. These delivery systems could be used in food, pharma, and cosmetic applications. Our current research has been looking at strategies for encapsulating of these carotenoids in hemp cream, and also evaluating how these carotenoids or these bioactives are, would remain stable when they are encapsulated in this cream. So what we believe here at Riddet Institute is that for us to be more successful, we would not be able to compete with the volumes of the hemp which is being produced in Canada or the US. But our strength has always been, creating high-value ingredients, and which is where most of our research has been focusing in the last few years. In the next few slides, I would like to give you some, some idea about if you want to start, where do you start? So apart from the funding available through the Callahan Innovation and the Food Innovation Network, this would be more product development. If you are looking at more ingredient development or a science-backed product, there are opportunities for funding available through the HVN. Now, HVN is one of the 11 national science challenges whose main purpose is to develop high-value foods with validated health benefits to derive economic growth. There are 4 main priority research programs under the HVN, which is the metabolic health, immune health, infant, and digestive health. And we at the Riddet Institute host the Science of Food program, so we can help you develop the product and help you, get a pathway for clinical trials through validated claims. And then, this would just be, giving you a potential economic output as well. Okay, so the types of grants which are available through the HVN may range for as small as 50,000, which you could use for doing more or less a small work like a regulatory assessment to market research. It can also range to a more substantiated program where you can develop a product and take this product for a clinical trial where you can assess one of those 4 metabolic research priority areas and look at what effects does those products have on the nutrient bioavailability. With that, I would like to thank you all for your kind attention. And if at all you have any questions, you can either get in touch directly or through Richard. Thank you so much.
Right, Anant, thank you very much. Anant, if I could just ask you to turn your screen sharing off and then join us back as a panelist with your video on, and Nicki and Al as well. And then we'll be able to join everybody up and just look back at what we've just sort of been exposed to in those 3 presentations. We've been doing some questions and answers as we've been going along, which thank you very much, Nicki, for answering all of those actually. Nicki, well done. There was one regarding the smoke point, and this speaks to the enemies of the oil being heat, light, and air, and they've got to be mitigated. Hence the dark bottles. But we'll go into a bit of that tomorrow in some of the compliance and how to grow hemp and how to process hemp into food. This one was about sort of that ecosystem, and Alan and your presentations really covered that off very, very well. And I think people miss the opportunities within the science challenges. Especially as you pointed out, Anant, in the high-value nutritional one, because there is funding available there, and the microbiological areas that you described all go back to what Nicki was saying around why these are important foods for us to just get in and consume. And Nicki, you've got a theory about how much people should eat, and it's not prompted by all the industry people that are selling hemp hearts and things, but it'll be interesting to hear what you had to say about incorporating into your diet, if you had a moment.
I just we've got a bit of rain here, so hopefully you can hear me clearly. We have a very thin roof, so it's all good for the hearing.
That's okay at the moment, yeah, Nicki. Well, did you hear the question?
No, I heard the question. Yes. So I've just based it on, roughly the percentage of protein and essential fatty acids that people need for well-being. And because it's so bioavailable and so easy to digest, we typically see extremely, I guess, positive turnovers of health when we start to increase or use primary source, hemp being the primary source of protein, and the essential fatty acids being between 100 and 200 grams a day. Now, I don't sell hemp. I'm not associated with anyone selling it, but I really, really am passionate because I've seen astounding results when we do start, after sort of a few weeks or up to sort of 6 weeks of seeing people really start to consume those high volumes of hemp, then that means not using a lot of other protein foods or not a lot of other fats in the diet as well, because we've got it all in the hemp seed itself, if that makes sense. And we obviously, as they get well, we start to probably reduce to that around 100 grams a day. But I mean, personally, I crave it. I'm consuming about 200 grams a day, and use it primary as that source of protein because I think it's the best protein in the world. So that's why I'm eating it.
It's good to support your own best product here. No,
yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. And that's pleasing to hear for all the, I'm sure the hemp seed food manufacturers out there as well. At the moment we do have, and Anant mentioned it as well, this whole thing around commoditization. And as those raw ingredients, we are competing with some imported product. And so, buying locally does, at the moment, possibly come with a slight premium, but it does support our farmers. And we will get economies of scale. What that means is, our farmers will get access to improved varieties. And again, we'll touch on that tomorrow. But Anant, with your research, what drives the research? Is it something that the Riddet Institute does, or do you have clients come in and say, I want to do this, or do clients come in and say, I'm into hemp, what can we do? How does it normally come to your door?
It's a bit of both, actually. So we already have through our different science programs, we have interest in sustainable nutrition. And we are always looking at, what are different ways of improving sustainability at the same time delivering the same nutrition. And this is where our interest in hemp comes through, wherein hemp being more sustainable source of, say, proteins and, high value ingredients or high value nutrients. We are also kind of, getting to understand how it behaves in the gastrointestinal tract. So from that point of view, it fits in with our research strategy. But also, of late, we have also received a lot of interest from the, hemp growers as well. Looking at, we have got all this seed now. What is the, what is it that we could do with it? So just to give you an example, we worked with a company based in Taranaki, wherein we have developed hemp containing meat analogs for them. So this is just a partnership with them, and this is also quite a unique to the Riddet Institute, because we have very flexible IP with our clients, but for something we also, as I said, we also work very closely with the Food Innovation Network. So if we feel that if it requires more kind of research element to the research element aspect for development of the product, we would be very keen on the understanding just from a structures point of view. But if it is something, we feel that the Food Innovation Network has already got the expertise to, develop a product, I think we work very closely with them in that case.
Right, and that's taken us to that stage of using that research and commercializing it, which Al, you brought that up as the, you can do the pilots and you can get us up to that stage, and then suddenly we have this gap in our whole, manufacturing chain, our value chain in New Zealand. The gap is where the big manufacturers come in. So do you see?
Well, it depends what the product is. I mean, I highlighted two where there are gaps. but one of them is extracting the plant protein, which is, you know, can hamper development, but you can still make a lot of products from hemp. So I didn't want to come across as being too negative there. I just highlighted a couple of hurdles. And I think, you know, if you are developing something and you want to scale it up, then you need to look into that, you know, when you start, rather than, you know, do a couple of years work and then realize that there's nowhere for you to go to make your product or get it made.
But do you think there'll be business cases for investment into that space, to build capacity in that area?
Yeah, well, what's happening at the moment, Food HQ, Abby Thompson down in Palmerston has just started a emerging proteins group where she's getting all the industry players together to have a look at what the issues and challenges are, and that hopefully will help address some of those gaps.
That's it, and then you can be tapping into the Sustainable Food and Futures Fund, and there's other underutilised Callaghan in there as well to possibly partner with them to build that capacity. But I think people will see the business case for it and say, okay, well, we need a plant-based UHT facility. We need a big biorefinery to break these things down, and some of those will come with economies of scale as well. It was interesting though, the point you made around the traceability and story. You know, that's going to be such an important part of that. I mean, people are going to scan, aren't they, using their phone and want all that information. So New Zealand's got to be better in that space. Do you see any movement in the agri-tech or food tech industry about bridging that?
Well, I guess the question is for all of us is what is the story going to be? You know, I can't answer that question. I guess you, Richard, might have a better idea than me, but what is it about New Zealand hemp that's going to make it stand out? Is it just that it's when you combine the nutritional properties with the trusted elements of New Zealand as a brand, is that going to be enough to get people to buy it, or does it need to be something more than that, I suppose, you know, based on some findings through Riddet or other things that make our hemp stand out from the opposition? Because it's going to be, you know, already you can buy hemp from China and it's going to be cheap as chips. So, you know, what is going to make our product premium and stand out from the opposition?
And that's such a key point, is that, you know, avoiding that commodity, because that's been a theme throughout the webinar series, trying to get that global niche market for high value product, high quality, because we can make that. But, you know, Kiwi Fruit did a very interesting thing when they did some studies on the health benefits, and then so they can make health claims. So this is back to research in that. Do you see food research going in that way? Because Nicki brought it up around, you know, why people are buying foods, you know, and health is a big part of that now. So do you see that as a function for future science?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, I was going to, you know, quote this example of this kiwi fruit, because, you know, this was something which was brought to New Zealand, and then we developed it. We kind of validated the claims. Now you see, you know, it's a huge success. So similarly, I think we have a huge potential here. But at the same time, you know, we would also be looking at, it is also of interest to look at, you know, what are some of those bioactives or biomarkers which we can find in, say, you know, New Zealand grown kind of, you know, hemp. It would be challenging, as Alasdair said, because, you know, most of the seeds which we are getting would be, again, from overseas. So which would just kind of give us, put us on the same level field, wherein we don't have a distinct advantage on the varieties part. But if there would be any research undertaken in this area, I think this would go a long way to understand, you know, what are the differentiating factors which we can use for marketing our products.
And so that could be the seeds, as you said, but could it be the growing environment, like our holo in the ozone layer, or the soils that we grow in? Could they add some distinct qualities that we could market? Yeah, I think more research will need to be undertaken before we, you know, kind of make a conclusion. But I think, you know, there is a huge potential to, you know, look at if there is any metabolites which are specifically present in, you know, the hemp grown in New Zealand. But we also to recognize the fact that hemp is one of those crops which is grown, you know, throughout the world, you know, in a very diverse, you know, kind of climatic conditions as well. And a substantial effort would be required in future if we have to kind of, you know, create a differentiating product here in New Zealand as compared to, you know, from the States or the North America. But then, so there's a big body of work, but we've got to get started at some point, and then it just sort of accumulates over time. And then there's the other bioactives that everybody was mentioning as well. I mean, how to infuse those. CBD got to mention, of course, that's got some legal restrictions. We should point out that you still need a license to be in possession of the seed, because the seed is considered a Class C drug. So as soon as it becomes a hemp product, which is processed in whole or in part from industrial hemp, then it becomes a product that you don't need a license for. So that's where the oils and the hemp hearts can be used in your own kitchen, because you don't need a license. So just to clarify that. But I think the infusion of bioactives and and the complements with other primary industries, honey, for example, could be possibilities.
Yeah, I think, there is a huge number of possibilities there. We have a huge shoreline here in New Zealand. We are an island nation here. So blending of, say proteins with other sources, such as, seaweed proteins, for example. Avocado could be one example, bioactives from, say, our grape industry, or, some other industries like, even dairy, for example. Dairy and, hemp protein blends, or meat and hemp blends could also be one option. So there are huge, immense possibilities there, where we can kind of supplement one primarily produce with the other.
Right, which is building on what you were saying around using those blends to, supplement, to fortify it, in the sense of if ours was a little low in some regards, put in protein from other sources. So again, it works well in that whole complementary and that system as well. Thank you, Nicki, for bringing up the acid forms of CBD and THC, which are available in the product as well. We will take a bit of a deep dive on that at some point, but it's still a little controversial at the moment. We're only allowed hemp seeds. You also mentioned leaf, which is a massive part of the industry, and if you look back at the UN Single Convention, it's not actually banned within that, so it should be available to us. Unfortunately, our Australian New Zealand Food Safety Authority, who considered allowing hemp for food, only chose to allow us to go as far as the seed. So that would require another application, but there's a lot of people out there already using it in their teas and other beverages. So it's only a matter of time, Nicki, but you're quite right at the moment.
Exactly.
And how would you see that?
Well, I'm sort of wondering and I've had some conversation with the government over this particular, I guess, with the referendum coming up, because that referendum is specifically focused on, I guess, recreational, in a sense of people being able to grow their own plants, so you can have it, and have these leaves in their raw state, so you can access some of those cannabinoids in their acid form. But I guess it might be something that once we know where we're at with that in September, people might be able to put forward some different ideas about being able to have their own plants that aren't with low THC. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look. I know that it's not stated in the referendum proposed changes at the moment, but I know that we will have the opportunity to have a conversation about possibly not only having some of those low THC plants, so we can access the leaf and the whole seeds. And also just what you said before about the whole seeds not being available. I know in other countries they are sterilising them to 100 degrees, which does have a slight effect on the fats and the protein, but still gives us an opportunity to have the whole seed. And also we can sprout them and they won't germinate. That there is some, I guess, possibilities there if we are still going to be very strict with the seed use as a whole. I'm not sure if that answered. I think I heard your question. I'm not 100% sure if I heard it completely. Did that answer?
Absolutely, Nicki. Well done. And with the rain coming down. So, no, that's a wonderful job. And you brought up a number of interesting topics as well, which we're all going to be worked through in the next wee while, because that referendum, I believe, will have an impact on the medicinal and industrial industry for hemp, and therefore it's a question that we have in front of our membership, whether or not we should be supporting that, and so we'll be watching that space with interest. Because of what you just said about the fallout. I mean, if they can grow 2 plants, why not grow 2 hemp plants?
Absolutely.
There's Nicki?
Sorry. just thinking a take on what we were talking about New Zealand standing out with our hemp particularly, is I think we do have a lot of innovation in this country. If we can start producing products that do stand out, you know, hemp is, there's so many hemp products around the world, but I think we can do some amazing stuff with the way that we think as New Zealanders. And I think we haven't got anywhere near where we can go with this plant. So it'd be interesting to see, in terms of innovation being our strong point as a nation, in terms of the hemp industry.
Very well said.
Excellent. And Al, would you like to comment on that? Because of course this is now packaging comes into this, but what is the, you know, we are regarded worldwide as a very good source of growing these products, so that's got to be in our favour.
Yeah, I think it's all down to New Zealand story, the New Zealand brand, and the fact that we're a food nation, an agricultural nation, but also we're trusted as well. So when it comes to food safety, that's an important part of our brand. And especially when you're getting into nutritional claims and various other functional aspects of a food, the fact that it comes from New Zealand, people are much more likely to believe that it's actually the real deal.
That's it, and that's the challenge for industry, to make sure that those qualifications and that testing is all part of the process of best practice to maintain that integrity. And I think there's some good support. We had NZHIA, you know, and they're just waiting for new food companies to start knocking on their door. So there's plenty of support for the government. Do you feel there's an appetite for, you know, obviously, you know, primary production is starting to become a, you know, it's really highlighted as it's so important to our economy. So that value.
Well, when people look at plant crops, there's certain ones that, you know, we're probably going to be better at than others. Like we're very good at oats. We're not so good at peas and beans, you know. So there's a lot of work being done on oat milks and added value oat products in this country at the moment. And I think, you know, probably hemp will sit alongside oats as being one that's got good potential for us. That's what I think.
Right on, right on. And that opportunity to blend and complement with even the dairy as well. You know, so there's all sorts of opportunities there. But do you guys have any last comments that you'd like to make before, because we're coming up to 11:57, coming up to the end of the hour, before we finish off? Nicki, did you want to add anything extra?
No, I'm all good. Like, yeah, I think there's so many more things to talk about, but I think today we covered a lot in a short time, and I appreciate having that time to share a passion of mine with your audience and you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nicki. And Anant, is there anything from the, you know, just a little teaser of get out there industry, come and see us about some particular topic?
Oh, sure. You know, I think, you know, before doing that, I think, you know, one of the things which I also wanted to highlight was that there may be potential opportunities to develop packaging from the hemp fiber if it has not been considered. So, you know, this is going to quite big as well. So this is going to be a byproduct as well. So this hemp fibers could be used for making some very high value ingredients as well, like cellulose nanocrystals, which can go in as insulating materials in aeroplanes. So, you know, this is really high value material, which we could use in a variety of products, from water filters all the way to, you know, electronics. So this is a kind of, you know, very versatile crop, and the more value we can extract out of it, the more value it will build on the economic pathway for a successful cultivation of this product.
Absolutely, this whole plant utilization and you know, the bigger, you know, economies and mass scale that we have to be able to, you know, use a biorefinery to break out all those constituents and extract all those things into the various industries. You know, that's just a matter of time. So some really good points here, and thank you for that. And now,
if at all anyone is around, you know, Palmerston North, we would invite any one of you to come and you know, talk to us about anything. We would be very happy to, you know, share our knowledge and research.
Awesome. Thank you, Anant. Very gracious offer. And now, any final words from the Foodbowl?
Not really, just thank you for having me, Richard.
Awesome.
Hopefully next year it'll be in person.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then we can have Nicki cooking us up some foods
Yeah.
as well. That would be, you know, that's one thing that you're missing out on in a virtual experience, the smell and the taste. So looking forward to that at our physical summit and expo in May 2021. So I hope you guys will all be there as seminar speakers and contributors to the conference itself. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Al Baxter from the Food Innovation Network, Nicki Mackinnon from the West Coast in Auckland, and Anant from the Riddet Institute down in Massey. Thank you very much, guys, and I'll send out that recording very shortly. So I'll just stop there.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks
Richard.
for having us.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.